Hi, Gaz. Hi, Latch. Thank you for joining me on the podcast. How are you both doing?
All right, mate. You
Yeah, all right. Cheers. It's good to have you both on. How are you doing, Gaz?
Yeah. Okay, yeah, good. Yeah, all good. Yeah,
So,
I'm trying to hide behind the mic here because I'm in the middle of the dentist and I've lost my teeth done. And I've lost my teeth, my temporary teeth. I've lost them on a in a pint of Guinness somewhere. Seriously, I left them. They fell out into a. Anyway,
he knocked it out on stage.
actually out on stage last year. Lost them in a
Cardiff,
pint of
yeah.
Guinness, and then I left them. Was it New Zealand or Australia? I've been waiting for a year to get these teeth done. So I've been in and out of the country, and I left them somewhere. I left them on a plane.
Train or a plane?
Left them on a plane. It's embarrassing going for false teeth. Anyway, go on.
how
It's
did
not a
you knock,
toupee, is it? So
how did you knock him out on stage?
Was it the mic hit you?
no.
Was it when we were rehearsing and I whacked you in the mouth with the mic?
You know what? Think about it. That might have started like that, but I think it's just the passion I was putting into it.
It literally come out as he was singing.
I was putting my
Jeez.
heart, and so it just popped out. One of them did, and then the other, yeah, just fell out on the Ian Brown gig in Coventry. Yeah, it just popped out, no reason. But it might have been when he banged it in. Yeah, it might have been.
In rehearsals. I tripped over a mic lead and the mic bashed him in the mouth in rehearsals.
How did you two first meet then? Was it when the Mondays rehearsed at your studio?
Yes.
Yeah.
Short answer.
Did you hit it off straight away then?
Yes. Me, him, and Paul. I think we're just very similar individuals, same age, grew up in the same sort of area, listened to the same music.
Didn't go
Just
from the same area. You're a
the
scout. You're a
northwest. The
scouser.
northwest.
He's like it's toys. He's a scouser from Widnes or Weirdness. I'm from
Oh, you
mine.
went
We're from.
Spike Island and that, yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, is that
yeah.
where Spike Island is? Is that where it is?
God, yeah,
Yeah.
it's part of witness.
Weirdness. I don't know. I went to Spike Island. I was there, but I was heavily sedated at the time. I can't remember where it was. I didn't know it was near there.
No, it's not near there. It's in Widnes.
Oh, is it?
Yeah,
Oh,
it's
right.
down. I'll tell you what. It's down the road from the Queen's Hall.
Oh, right. I've never heard of it.
The Queen's Hall. He used to rehearse there.
Oh no! Oh, they got my coat robbed. You mean?
God.
Got coat robbed off the janitor, off the guy off the manager of the venue. Oh yeah. See,
Yeah.
that's it. So we did a pre-production in for some Mondays tour. I don't know when it was. 20 years ago. We did it in Widnes. I'm saying Weirdness now. Widnes. What's it called?
Queen's Hall.
Queen's Hall. And all week the manager who run the venue, whatever it was closed, I know he managed it. It was really nice to us. And had a Beatles jacket. He went, "Oh, I like that jacket." I said, "Yeah, it's probably Beatles one. It's an old '60s one." Nicked it.
Did he?
We're missing like that. Makes it like we're missing last day of rehearsals. And then years later, someone said, "Oh, I went to a gig to see a gig there." I don't know who it was, and said, "Manager had a Beatles coat on like you had." Probably cool. Anyway, that's my one experience with weirdness.
Did you say you both were at Spike Island then?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
Spike
that's
Island.
my hometown. Yeah.
I wasn't there long. I only stayed after set, and then I went.
Where it sound makes me shit though on
I don't remember.
I can't remember. I can't remember much about it.
No, I can't. I remember walking down. That's about it.
You don't remember going back, getting back
Not
on it?
really. Not really. No. It was a long day.
So,
Yeah.
what were your first impressions of the Mondays then?
When they come here, when they first come here.
Yeah, yeah.
So prior to them lot landing here, I had been doing some work with Rowetta, recording a lot of her songs and stuff like that. Which is, I think, how when they were looking for somewhere to rehearse, this place got thrown in the hat, as it were, as a potential. No, was it you or Paul messaged me? Someone emailed me. I think it might have been Paul.
Yeah, it would have been.
Someone emailed me anyway.
Way
Out
too
of the
friendly
band.
for me.
Yeah, someone out of the band emailed me asking a few questions, technical questions, etc., etc.
Definitely not me.
No, it was. I think it was Paul.
Mm.
You know, agreed that we could accommodate what they needed. Agreed a price. That was that. The next thing, all the equipment starts arriving about the week before, something like that. So we got all that set up. So my first experience was literally the day you all arrived. And it was everyone, wasn't it? So met everyone that day, if you know what I mean.
That was it. Did we all arrive at the same time?
Well, you, PD, Mark Day, Paul, Rowe,
Right. Okay.
Dan Broad.
All right. I can't remember it.
Yeah,
I
but
remember
not all at
rehearsing.
the same time. But that on that day one, you all sort of
I
arrived.
don't remember the first day. I remember coming. I remember rehearsing it well, but I
Yeah.
don't remember the first day.
Yeah, and then to be honest with you, my job at that point is sort of making sure everything goes without a hitch, all the technical stuff. So I'm on hand, if it, as you were, just in case they need, oh, we got one of these leads, or, this isn't working or whatever. And just by that process, sort of got talking with you lot, didn't I?
Mm.
All
Yeah.
incredibly nice people.
I saw your interview on the Paul Ryder tapes, which if anybody's not watched, go check it out because it is a brilliant podcast. But you said that Gaz was the typical drummer in the back and stuff. So what's it like seeing him doing his own projects and being at the centre of it?
Hang on, what do you mean typical drummer at the back?
The drummers generally quite quiet, aren't they? They just crack on.
You're going quiet.
Not now, but as a drummer, yeah. No, the normal. You're at your normal dynamic within a band is the drummers sort of just let me hit stuff and tell me when to play. Look at Ringo.
Yeah, but we weren't like that, were we? I don't say that.
Yeah.
No, that was no.
Well, all right then.
nothing
What's
like
the
what-
dynamics of the Mondays in your opinion then?
It wasn't like Mark's a quiet one. Well, quiet in the band.
The quietest, yeah.
Well, not when they're not outside the band. He's not. He's the loudest. But in the band, no. Paul was quiet. I certainly
They
wasn't.
were all quiet.
I weren't quiet.
They were all quiet. All
Really?
absolute
Yeah.
sweetheart. Yeah, honestly, all absolute sweetheart. I thought a bunch of lunatics were going to roll through the place. When you start going, oh, I hope, the place don't get burned down right like that. Just all absolute sweethearts.
What was that the conception of what you'd heard previous of the band and that?
Yeah, well, I mean, I know the music from growing up and everything, and obviously, like a lot of rock and roll bands, they have a reputation.
So, with Yogi J and the Family Tree, Gaz, how did that come about?
Well, it started when I was living in North America. I'd be back and forth in North America the last 16 years. So I was living there, and when I'd come over for Monday's gigs, we were doing gigs at weekends. I had all week off, and I was just on my own. So I just and this was going on for years. So I just had time to kill. So I just picked. I started off playing guitar when I was 8. It was guitar, acoustic guitar. Me and my older sister went for classical lessons from age 8 to 11 till I damaged my arm. So I just picked the acoustic guitar up again and started playing again. I hadn't done it for 20 odd years or something. I just started writing songs just for me, just for no reason, looking for singers. Then I did Show Me the Truth. I sang on it. It was amazing. Co-wrote it and sang on it.
Don't forget what popular to what a lot of people don't understand is Gaz was one of the main songwriters in Happy Mondays.
Well, yeah, the band.
So you, Paul, predominantly wrote the songs, didn't you? And then Sean wrote what he wrote on top of that.
Well, yeah, I'm Mark.
So what I'm saying is Gaz has always been a songwriter anyway.
So yeah, so yeah, and then we had and PD people playing when he didn't get a lot of credit, and Mark Day don't get the credit he should do. But anyway, that's another story. That's a Monday's interview, isn't it?
Well,
so yeah, so I started, and then I went to a few studios in Toronto and then started working with Latch and doing stuff. And then I did a tour a couple of years ago, just doing someone's Q&A with Mike, who was from Warrington here, worked with Latch, guitarist who's now in Cambodia doing his own stuff. And then I met a lad called Chris Barton in Toronto, who's lived in Toronto, who's actually grew up about 8 hours away from me in Salford.
Didn't know each other before we met in Toronto.
Didn't know each other before we met in Toronto. I mean, he's 15 years younger than me or something like that. And he's a great singer, got a great voice and a good guitarist. So we did a couple of tracks with Chris. He's gone back. I think he's gone back.
He's moving to LA.
He's moving to California. His wife's an actress, so he's doing that. So it ended up just me and Latch in the studio, and then Latch produced a couple of the early tracks, and it just came apparent that he was doing more than producing. He was co-writing, and the songs are changing, and he was telling. He went me into in the vocal booth where you go into the studio and you do your vocals, and he was telling me, it made me work hard, and he wasn't someone who's used to vocally, so it made me really work hard and find a way of, kind of where my vocals sit and all that kind of thing. And then when it was co-writing, it just worked out. We kind of went more electronic, guitars now and again, but kind of more electronic, and we have a good laugh. And we get on, and we both came out. We're both the same age. We both came out of our first entrance into music was the Sex Pistols. So we're both in our 50s, both mates, both done loads of things, both lived in London at the same time, about half a mile away from each other.
Didn't know each other.
And so it just clicked. Sometimes, it's weird because I've played with lots of people, and sometimes and producers, and you're open to work with someone where it just works, and it just does. And it took me years, but it did. Anyway, it does now, and so we just write together, and it's weird because we've got he's like, I call him a scouser, so it's got this like kind of Mancunian scouser kind of thing going on, but he's not really a scouser, he's some witness.
I'm a woolly back.
He's a woolly back.
Where are you from?
At Leeds.
Yeah, right, okay, yeah. Do you understand that woolly back scouser and things?
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, okay.
So, coming from Widnes, which is midway between Liverpool and Manchester, we got beaten up by everyone because the Mancs were Scousers and the Scousers were Woollyback, so everyone beat us up, basically.
Well, Leeds was one of the first places we had an audience on the Mondays. Leeds and London.
Yeah, it's strange, that, isn't it? Before Manchester.
Us and the Stone Roses, the two bands, ironically, who couldn't get arrested in Manchester.
Jesus.
The Manchester press, radio, and newspaper hated us. The two bands they all hated.
It's crazy, isn't it, though? Because you two bands are at like forefront of that scene as well, aren't you? So
it's always a way. What do they know? I understand in a way because we're both very different and everything else, and we seem too raw. A lot of bands were very polished and indie like in them days, so it's kind of like we were the opposite to both our bands, even though us and the Roads are very different. We were opposite to everything that was going on at the time.
well, obviously, Gaz were at the forefront of the Manchester scene. What was it like as a fan and being there in those years?
You were a fan, were you? You were doing your youth.
No, I was no, I was still making music, but it's just part of your youth, isn't it? I think when you're a kid, there's a point where suddenly music becomes important to you, doesn't it? Probably, the start of high school or something like that, which luckily for me and Gaz was punk. So all of a sudden, music is a massive, important part of your life. And then from punk, I sort of got into hip hop and soul. And then obviously the late 80s, early 90s, the whole drug culture, dance music, the Mondays, Roses, etc., etc. So I can't say I was like a massive fan of anyone in particular at that time. The sort of late 80s, early 90s, because it was the drug culture one. It was basically anything that was big at that time that you could bop along to while you're off your nut. But obviously I remember them. I remember a bunch of bands from them. But I weren't like, a massive fan of it like that. And also, bear in mind, how old would I have been then? How old were you?
Early 20s.
Yeah.
19, 20.
Early 20s. Probably more interested in just cars, drugs, and girls. than being a fanboy, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. So, Gaz, obviously the Mondays are known for the hectic lifestyles, but like later on in the Mondays career, you've lived a different life with the Yogi lifestyle. How did that come about, and where did the journey start?
My wife in the 1990 took me to a yoga class in Manchester, and it killed me. It wasn't the kind of yoga I wanted to do. It was like kind of power. It wasn't the stuff. And she kept mithering me for years because I had something from OCD, anxiety, depression a lot. She's saying, it'll help. And I'm not doing yoga because I didn't want to have a ponytail and walk around in sandals. Though I probably did then, actually.
It does now.
You know, people talking like that to you, like, you need to go inside. Go inside, and I can't be, hugging each other. I can't be doing with all that, I'm an Olympic champion at being a cynic, and I don't want that. That's the last thing I want. So I put it off for about 15 years. And in the 90s, I had a bad reaction to a malaria drug when I was in Ghana. And ironically, I went to the place called Meadowbrook, which is Salford Royal Hospital, as a day patient. And Paul Ryder had been sectioned at the time, and he was in there. We used to go and sit together, and he was proper one for us a cuckoo's nest. It was hilarious. And we knew we weren't mad but we both having real issues. I had this thing for a couple of months. It was really strange. At one point, I thought that I died, and I wasn't really living a life. This was an illusion, which we all know now is probably true, But it was like I was living this, it's very weird. It's hard to explain. It seems very silly, but it's
basically he was off his nuts.
And I thought he was saying if it was LSD, you'd taken the past, he was smoking weed. I was happy for a joint when it happened. And it was a malaria drug that they've since been taken off the market. Lariam.
Let's just say he had like a psychotic episode.
He was psychotic. It lasted for a couple of months. It was horrendous. It was really weird.
Yeah.
And what was we talking about?
How did you get into yoga?
Oh yeah. So then I started doing meditating, and it helped. And then and doing yoga, but proper yoga, not yoga. See, people have this misconception about yoga. Like it's this all you see now, a lot of them in these gyms, that's power yoga. That's not really yoga. Yoga's a meditation.
New age.
New
thing,
age, yeah. Without what sound new age fluff, yoga's about breathing. It's a spiritual connection. It's about calming down. It's meditation, and it works. It works. Especially these days, we're saturated in stimulation all the time from everywhere. And I'm as guilty as anyone, still am. So you just take a bit of time away. It's like meditation. The worst thing people can say to you, oh, stop you from thinking. It can't stop you from thinking. You can't stop thoughts until you're dead. You can't. Even thinking when you.
Not that we know that for a fact.
Well, when you've astral projected, you do.
Oh.
Not that I have. So even when you're dreaming, you're thinking apart. I think under
Coma.
No.
Oh.
I can't say it because I'm not going to be teeth in. Anesthetic. That's I think the only other time when you don't breathe, when you don't breathe, you don't dream. I don't want to sound too boring and too hippish, but yeah, it helps massively. Meditation, and any day I miss a meditation, and the meditation is tricky. It's just observing your thoughts, not stopping them. And you'll notice that there's little gaps in between thoughts, and that's where you focus on the gaps. And it's about the breath, and you don't have to sit still for. You can do it for 5 minutes, 2 minutes. The difference is incredible. It works. It works. On the recent Money's tour, we talked about Mark Day's the complete opposite than me. He's like hectic. He drink. I mean, I drink as well, but he's like he had proper parties every night of the tour. Not, I mean, drinking parties. And he's dead happy. Mark's got one of them personalities that people spend 20 years in a cave in Tibet trying to get to. He's happy. He's not interested. He's not into anything esoteric, or he just laughs at me for reading these books and doing it. He just has a.
Content.
He's just content, and that's it. And he's a beautiful person. He's a great lad. He's just really happy. And we talk about this, and Dan on tour was saying, but he doesn't meditate. I said, but he does, because in the daytime he does he does models and builds like galleon ships out of matchsticks and that. And that's meditation. Walking's meditation. Doing the garden is meditation. Anything's meditation. But you're not been watching them films, not because you've been stimulated, you're thinking. But something where you're fully absorbed in, singing, performing, when you're absorbed in it completely, that's meditation. You learn to observe your thoughts. You realize you're not your thoughts. You realize that your thoughts can come from anywhere, and we've spoke about anxiety and the problem with once you realize that you're not your thoughts, it's all just crave. It's a movie that you're playing in your mind. It's all nonsense. It really is, and your mind plays tricks on you because the mind, your mind's not there to make you happy. That's what we think it's not. Your mind's there to keep you safe so you can reproduce and keep you alive. So in the past, when we had predators, if you were happy and happy-go-lucky, you're going to get eaten. So it's always your mind's constantly looking for danger, and obviously we don't have that danger. Well, we don't have that danger much these days. Yeah, we don't have that these days. But so we have so it's looking desperately for these to keep you alert. We don't need that. No, not to that degree anyway. So your mind's not there to make you happy; it's there to keep you alive. So you've got to realize that you're in control of your mind, don't let your mind be in control of you. And it's not easy. It's easy said than done. It takes It's difficult, but once you realize you're not your thoughts and it's all a lie, that's just feeding stuff. I hate using the word narrative, but that narrative that you've told yourself, that voice you've had in your life, in your head all your life, you've convinced yourself you're someone without getting deep. And I don't want to bore people, but
it's too late. You got deep.
It's the mind. I thought you were saying boring people.
You just went deep.
The mind's not evolved for 200,000 years. It's not changed. And look how much we've evolved and changed. So our mind not built to cope with all this stimulation. So of course everyone's getting stressed. And you know what, I think the last 10, 15,000 years our minds have shrunk 4 or 5%. So we're struggling to cope with all this, and we're constantly being sold stuff constantly. We all do it. Everything I talk about, I'm guilty as. I'm no guru. I'm no yogi. I'm not, but but I'm as guilty as anyone. We all do it, but you got to take a step back because it's chaos. It's absolute chaos, and we're being controlled by algorithms. Sometimes for the good, it's great. Sometimes when they can send you to stuff that you like, and sometimes bad. But we're constantly
being manipulated
constantly. But we stimulate like constantly. Even before the internet, we always have been by our friends, by our family, by our by everyone. We always are. So we never go from being. It's really difficult without getting deep. So so we make music to escape that.
Well, I've told you before, like I suffer with anxiety and stuff like that. So for somebody like me that's not done any yoga or anything like that, how would you start out?
Well, you know what, yoga, first of all, yoga's not about folding yourself like a pretzel. There's lots of different types of yoga where you don't do any of that. None of that.
Breathing and stuff.
Mostly breathing. But yoga's spiritual. It's not about exercise. All this sweating, that's not yoga. Most yoga you see now standing was created the last 100 years, last 500 years. Proper yoga's none of that. It's all about breathing, connection with the divine, whatever you believe in, whatever that. I just got.
God, we sound like a fucking pair of hippies here.
I know, yeah, we're not hippies. Anyway, back to music. Yeah, so in the 90s, I took lots of drugs and
Is that
yeah, but it's not. But it's
Yeah.
I just want people to think that someone like me, a cynic from the band I've been in, can do yoga and meditation. You can, just because you don't have to. It's not about anything new age hippy dippy fluff. It's you'll be surprised who does it.
I tell you, I'm a firm believer in growing up. Like yourself, you're a northern lad. Your mum and dad throw these little daft sayings at you, don't they? That you, as a young fella, you're like, what you're talking about? And what one you'll often hear is, "Stop and smell the roses." That's what yoga is. It's that. It's we get told this stuff growing up, but don't realise that this is some philosophy that's been around for 1,000 years. We just dismiss it as, "Oh, my dad's talking shite" or whatever. But just stop and smell the roses. Be in the moment. Just go, "I'm all right. This is nice."
So
you know what I mean?
So I mean, yeah, he's right. He's spot on, and that's the thing. I think we're all dwelling on the past. We're all worried about the future, which is normal. That's how humans progress, by wanting more and more. But we've got to. I don't want to tell anyone pontificate about anything, because I suffer as much as anyone, and but everyone does. But so basically we got into music where there was anger. The sex was a lot of anger around before your time, but it was like now there's a lot of anger in the country.
But that anger was disenfranchised with society, wasn't it? That's what was happening at the time. Thatcher and the bin strikes and all that lot. It was the youth going, "We've had enough. This is bullshit." And that's what punk was.
And punk was, and so that's always in our bones. It's in our DNA, in our bones, in our DNA. So so when we're making music, it's always got to be. There's always some punk in it. But what make positive music? I know when you're younger, you want to make angry music. When you're older, you want to make something a bit positive, because there's enough anger going around and shit. And I'm not trying to sound new age and all that. But just listen to music where it just takes you somewhere for a while. Not escapism, a bit of escapism. You come to a gig, you just get lost in a moment for an hour.
It's a journey. It's a journey, not a destination.
And yeah, it's a quote. So yeah, it's true.
I've just come up with that then.
And it's all about the journey, but you don't appreciate the journey until the journey's over. Obviously, it's very complex and deep. Let's keep it light. That's about drugs. Too late. So we just thought. So yoga. So again, I just did it in between the Mondays gigs to keep busy, to focus, to escape. So you're going against everything I've just said. That's it. See, but we all everything's life's a contradiction. We're all hypocrites. We're all once you accept that as well, nothing's black or white. The truth usually resides in the grey area, and we're all hypocrites. So that's why I did it. And then I realised I'd play tunes to people and all that, and people who would be brutally frank with me, not people who just say, "Yeah, it's nice." Said, "Actually, pretty good, and lyrics are good. Yeah, of course, good. You need to do that." And I was like, "Yeah." And then Latch is brutally frank, and when I did first few, and he'd say that when you're in a good tune or you're playing a good tune, I'd come with the acoustic guitar, and Latch turns it into a great song. But he'll go, "Yeah, it's not shit." That means that means it's a classic. That means it's pretty good. That means it's a million seller if he said it's not shit.
What about the single then that you've been recording, "Shine On"?
Well, you know what? We've recorded loads. We jump about from one to the other because. So "Shine On" we were going to release in a couple of weeks. But we're going to leave it till January because of the Christmas rush and lots of reasons. But we've got a few ready to go. I think we're just going to release singles every 7 or 8 weeks or something. No point in releasing an album. We haven't really got an audience. We've never pushed it. I just put stuff out on YouTube and left it at that. And everyone's going, "What are you doing that for?" And Latch is more organised than me. We're getting them all on the Evil Empire, Spotify and all that, and on what's the
yeah, well, we're using a distributor who put it on all the digital platforms.
So we're going to do it properly. We're going to get a website nearly done, and get it all done. Start doing it properly. So I was just playing around with it and being, and it's like, and we're going to do some gigs in February. I'm going to do Leeds, looking at Leeds, end of February, March. Yeah, so we'll do a set of our songs and some Mondays ones. But I don't want to do. There's millions of people out there doing gigs. Don't want it to be a gig. I want it to be. When you go to like I said something before that was really interesting. When you go to I know you said movies and being all American. When you go to pictures, a film, and you just I don't want to use the word escapism. You have an experience without.
You've not gone anywhere.
You've not gone there. So it's an experience that doesn't actually take you anywhere. It's just an experience.
But you went somewhere and came back again, and then woke up in the cinema.
Well,
Yeah.
Come to a gig and
Like
just
that.
be like mesmerised. Not mesmerised at us two as musicians, mesmerised by the music,
Just go on a journey.
Yeah, so we're going to do, yeah, go on.
What do you mean, go on?
Well, I've done nothing but shut up, which is unusual because he never shuts up. Never shuts
I
up.
don't know where he gets this from.
So, what are your plans for gigs then with the Yogi G?
Right, so I'll take this one, shall I, Gary?
Mhm.
So basically, since you bought a new home in Manchester.
Yeah, it's not actually in Manchester, but there you go. Go on. Don't tell people where to live.
Well, that's in Manchester.
I don't want people to know where I live.
Well, that's where it's in Manchester.
But don't tell me where to say in the northwest.
Cheshire.
Fucking hell, just say in this country.
Edit that.
People don't know where I live.
Full address. Why didn't you say his full address and postcode?
You know what I mean?
Fucking
That's where
hell.
it's in Manchester. I don't live in Manchester.
Fucking hell.
Right.
So that guy posted yesterday in New York. He put, what did he put? He said, I don't want Donald Trump to get in because my Latino mother-in-law will get deported because she finishes work at 5 and she lives at no. Give the address and all that way.
No, since Gary moved to a non-disclosed fucking location in the northwest.
No one really cares. Just don't want, chuckle vision.
I didn't want to mention that you'd moved from Toronto.
I never lived in Toronto.
That's what I'm saying.
I didn't live there.
I know, that's exactly my point. Like a fucking man of mystery, isn't he?
No,
Right.
just paranoid. Even the paranoid have enemies, as they say,
Let's start that again. Since Gary moved to Manchester,
I don't live in Manchester.
Cheshire,
It's a bit, go on.
we can spend more time together working on the project. So what initially was Gaz writing a couple of songs and working with various people and myself getting involved, it's suddenly become a little bit more serious now because we're spending more time on it and we're ramping up the seriousness level. So now we're having to look at it with serious eyes rather than going, well, let's just make some music and throw it out on YouTube. It's like, all right, well, let's look at this as a real entity now. So as a result of that, we're now on the socials. We've got to get a website. So we're arranging gigs for the new year and sort of having proper. We're releasing a track, and trying to make a bit more of a big deal out of it than just, under the radar flashing stuff up on YouTube, which is great. But what we've thought was, if we're gonna do it, let's not fuck around. Let's have a proper go at it, if you know what I mean. So yeah, ahead of the release in the track Shine On, we're actually playing the Shine On Weekender Festival next March. And we thought it might be kind of quite, even though it's nothing to do with them, it just happens to share the same name. We thought it'd be really nice to release that when we play that, and so build up towards that. We've had a rethink, and Gaz wants to get it out in January because it is a big tune. It is a big tune.
I mean, I think Chris came up with the Shine On bit. I can't remember. I think so.
Yeah, he
Chris,
did.
Yeah, Chris came up with the Shine On bit. Yeah,
on the chorus.
Talk on the chorus was Chris. I think
Yeah.
Chris got the Shine On. Yeah, but I'm wishing I'd taken it serious from the start, really, because Show Me Truth Rowetta was phenomenal on it. And Mike is as what another Mike.
Mikey.
Mike, Toronto Mike. He's it's phenomenal, and the writings on it, and the family tree. It's all about co-writing with people. Get some people as guests to play stuff and that, but someone comes in, can change the song or can add writing to it. We'll have them as writers. We're not precious. Though it depends. It's I found being in bands when there's lots of you, I found it in the Mondays when we were writing music, you end up compromising with each other. And you can fall out and stuff, and really you should leave each other to it. I mean, me and Paul would try to say, Mark, play this, and he'd ignore us and play what he wanted, and what he wanted was brilliant. If he listened to us, it wouldn't have been as good, with hindsight. So I think you end up compromising. I think 2, maybe sometimes 3 is I can't even say 3 is these teeth is the way, because I think we compromise a little bit, but we don't compromise much. We
fight a lot.
We're pretty much We
fight a lot and then don't compromise.
I think I I think compromise is an arrow into the heart of art. I just think compromising with when you're making music, with anything, I think sometimes compromise is a good thing, obviously, but when you're making music, I don't think you should.
I think, yeah, but again, I think that's probably why this works, because predominantly me and Gaz tend to agree. We argue a bit about what a drum pattern or whatever, but ultimately we sort of agree that that works.
I always want the drums quieter, and he always wants them louder.
To give you one example,
yeah, but yeah. But I think we're going to probably go more to the electronic kind of side of things. We've guitars on some things. We're not going to be. We don't want to be an indie band. We're too old.
Yeah, but also electronic. It's a bit of a misnomer. You make it sound like we're Pet Shop Boys or something like that. It's not.
How dare you?
It's still a very organic
electronica.
Yeah, electronic.
I want to mix. We were talking the other day. I love mixing. When I first started doing the acoustic thing, I wanted to do acoustic songs like I love Bob Dylan and Leonard Cohen. I want to do that, but a million people do that, and a million times better than me. I mean, I'm confident with lyrics, but who can play guitar better than me, who can sing better than me. Lyrics, I'm pretty confident about, but I want to do. But you go in. The problem with people with acoustic, they're great. It can be boring, and it's hard to grab people's attention. You see it all the time. So
and it's the 21st century.
Exactly. So and I want to mix it with some electronic, because no one's really done acoustic electronica. Really, I've looked, and it's not really. I mean, apart from they do these, these flamenco Spanish, meditation thing. No, I want to do electronic mix with acoustic stuff. So kind of rock and roll mix with electronica. I don't know. I don't even know what that is. And ironically, Latch is really good at all that. He's like on the songs I brought in, he just strings and electronics. So I don't want it to sound like real bass and real drums. Bass sometimes, maybe not drums. See, contradicting myself.
Sometimes drums.
Yeah, I don't like live drums. Noisy.
Do you not play the drums much now then these days?
The minute I walk off stage of the Mondays until the minute I walk back on stage, I don't pick it up. No, it's not really my passion. I did enjoy. Yeah, I like.
And to use one of Gaz's phrase, they're too loud.
Too loud. I like, and you know what? I like. Yeah, I do. I like what I like. So I love beats and bass and drums. Bass. I wish I'd learned to play the bass guitar. Bass, I find really interests me. Bass and drums at a gig, it's really driving or groovy. I love that, but I go and watch a band. I don't look at I watch the whole band. I don't look at the singer. I don't look at the drummer. I watch the whole band as an entity.
Yeah.
I got I know friends who are drummers and they love it. They'll sit and practice. There's a guy here in it all day on their own. Nothing more boring for me. I couldn't sit and play drums all day. I get bored after 5 minutes.
So I started out life as a drummer, and after I played 8 bars, I've had enough. I don't want to play the same beat for another 8 bars.
Yeah. So,
but you mentioned bass there. Paul played one of his last bass lines on one of your songs, didn't he?
Ballad of David Bowie.
Well, I was living at Paul's in California at the time. We was living at Paul's house in California, and we'd come back to do some Mondays gigs, and we talk of the Mondays doing another album. This is about 5 years ago, 4 years ago, maybe, I can't remember. So we went in to we've done a place in Manchester and a studio, and Paul brought 3 or 4 songs. I took 3 or 4 songs in. We both played and we all played and Mark. We all did some stuff, and I don't think they even got past the management. I don't know what happened anyway. It wasn't going to happen. So I just kept my songs to myself, and I brought them in, and we did David Bowie on here, and I said to Latch, I want to sound like a Morricone thing, and Latch come back with the strings of this song, and it was incredible. I don't know if you've heard the song, but he built into this song that it wasn't.
It will be on Spotify very soon.
Yeah, it's a good song. Like the Shine On one he sent me, the Shine On one, I think that's brilliant, and it deserves the more attention than just putting it on YouTube.
That's what we think. It is a bit good, isn't it, that? I mean, there's nothing wrong with the others, but that one's very immediate, very accessible to a lot of people. And that's why we were like, this is too good to just fly under the radar, if you know what I mean.
Who's the female vocalist on that?
I hadn't finished saying about Paul.
Oh shit! Yeah, got it. Yeah.
It's like being in a band. So we brought a track in, and Latch did all this work on it, and we was looking at we've done all the string, we'd finished it. It was like looking at the bass, and there's 2 bass lines on it, and he went, "We should like this one or Paul's bass," and I went, "Paul who?" And Paul Ryder's went, "Oh, it's not on bass on this." He went, "Paul Ryder's bass on the computer here on the on the The channel. What's the technical word for it? The channel. There you go. So, and so I said, so got in touch with Dan, who's a Monday's like programmer. I said, and you know that song was doing the David Bowie film. I said, did Paul play bass? And he went, yeah. He said he just copied the bass line was in there and he did it his style. I was like, Christ, really? That's unbelievable. So I didn't know. You know, and then obviously, we know what's happened.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's good that there's a
that's
bit of
brought it down,
music
hasn't
there,
it?
though.
Pardon?
It's a good that you've got his last bit of music there on
Yeah,
this.
yeah, it is.
song.
Well, I like his bass, but I like bass playing with a plectrum. I like that kind of late 70s. Maybe it's a punk thing, the punk bass, but I like the punk bass lines with a plectrum so you can hear them, that like the jam that, I mean, I do like but I like proper driving bass lines, and he was good at that.
Yeah, very good bass player, wasn't he?
Yeah.
I just loved the way his style. Yeah, he was. Yeah. So it's funny because he imitate that. You ask, oh, it sound like pot. You just do because that's what you're used to, innit? There's the story of Lennon always saying Lennon and McCartney whenever they're in studio doing soul stuff, getting top end drummers in saying sound like Ringo. It's just what you want. What you're used to, innit? Yeah, and what you like. But I love Paul's bass playing. I love it. Yeah.
What are some of the other songs you can tell us about, and what do they sound like? I know you said the electronic, acoustic feel.
Well, Black Symphony is just acoustic, really, but that's kind of in the past. But go on, Latch, we've got halfway through a few of them, aren't we? We keep changing.
Yeah, we got sort of evolving. So again, part of how the sound is changing is the more me and Gaz have got involved. So the first few tracks that Gaz brought in were very not done, but 90% there. So I added very little to it, like you say, the orchestration, or I've mixed it, or changed arrangements or something like that. But it was already very much what it is. And then as Gaz and I are writing more and more, again, completely all that organically, we're just developing. Oh, I like that sound. Use more of that, and I like these drums on this song. That's the kind of sound. So it's electronic. I don't like saying electronic. It's not. If you imagine sort of hip hop influenced beats, it's still got the orchestration thing in there with lots of strings and stuff like that. There are elements of piano and guitar because they're our main instruments, so that's what we write on. So some of that creeps in. I'd say the newer stuff, we've gone a lot slower as well with the newer stuff for some reason.
I think punk, gospel, electro, junkie soul.
There you go.
It's proper morphine soul, it's proper
So at the beginning of
sedated soul.
At the beginning of this year, we all went out to Canada and rented a place in the mountains for a couple of weeks just to write. Stunning place. It was about 300 miles north of Toronto in the middle of nowhere.
Chris's place,
yeah, in like 4 foot of snow. It was absolutely beautiful. But we just set up a studio in the living room, and morning till night we'd get up and just start jamming and record ideas. So a lot of the new stuff is results of that.
That's the difference between me and him. It was beautiful. It was just cold and freezing for me and miserable. He was like, look at them grey skies, aren't they beautiful? And no. That's the difference. You know what I mean? There you go.
I was up at 7 o'clock every morning, jet lagged, and wandering around the mountains in 4 foot of snow, looking at wolf tracks.
Wolves and all the bears getting out of the way. He's here. And they're all getting out of the way, fucking off, so they have to. Don't catch his eye. You'll never shut up.
How do you prefer writing? Do you prefer writing with somebody or on your own?
Well, what usually happens is. But this should change. What usually happens, I write an acoustic at home lyrically, and then have the chords. Then I'll come in, and then Latch will take it into a different way. But there's a couple of songs Latch has had that electronic that we've added to, like there's one called Murder or Nothing's Gonna Change, where it was Latch's song, and me and Chris just come up with his vocals on it on the spot. So that's changed as well. But I've got
one of the ones from Canada.
Because
we were all going to meet up in Canada. You don't want to go with nothing. So I took a bunch of bare bones ideas for backing tracks. The idea being play them these and go, is there anything you like there? And they'd be like, oh, I like that one. Let's write something on that. And vice versa. He'll come in with stuff and sort of go, I've got this idea.
But I've got a backlog of acoustic songs that I've written on acoustic, which I think are lyrically and melodically really good songs, but it's just a bloke with an acoustic guitar. But bring it in here, bring it to Latch, and Latch turns it into something, says, oh, let's go this direction, let's do that, and change it, everything, change key, and it makes it into a song. That's what with them. But like I say, there's other songs where Latch will play me and I'll go, right, and I want to change it to me, yeah.
How did you get into the music business then, Latch? When did all this start for you?
Oh, it's cool. Punk again. high school. Started high school in what year did we start high school?
Oh, you don't give that away. Late 70s.
Yeah, late 70s. It was punk. So me and a couple of mates at school like let's form a band. I was a drummer.
Yeah.
You knew that.
He played drums,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. I was in a band for years as a drummer.
Did you want to be the drummer?
Yeah and no.
I watched.
My mate definitely wanted to be a guitarist. He was desperate to be a guitarist.
I mate wanted to be the guitarist.
Yeah.
Perkins. Everyone, me and PD wanted to be a bass player. PD wanted to be a bass player. I ended up keyboard playing on Mondays. I wanted to be a singer, but I didn't want people to look at me. You know, so that no, it's true. I always wanted to be the front man, but without people looking at me. So I wanted to. I mean, back to the artist, you Sutcliffe style, but obviously you can't do that, can you? Anyway,
so I was a drummer, and then just got by the time I was leaving school, I just got fed up with being in bands who you'd get good, you'd write some songs, you might even record in cassette as it was back then or whatever, and then the singer shags the guitarist girlfriend or something like that, and the band splits up. Honestly, that's not a joke, and it sounds like a stereotype, but it happens. And I just got fucked off with being in bands where you're putting all this effort into it, and I'm lugging a drum kit around. They're walking in with a microphone or a guitar or whatever. And I just got pissed off with relying on other people and thought, right. And again, just by look of the year I was born, around that time, drum machines and synths were just sort of becoming available. You know, you didn't have to sell your house to buy one. And I just come up with this brilliant idea of, I thought, oh, if I get a drum machine and one of these and one of them, I can just do it. I don't need to rely on anyone else. So I went down that road of writing songs on my own, but was just fascinated by those two worlds, the writing of music and the technology. And then I realized at some point that actually I've got a longer career if I focus on the technology rather than being the front man of a band, if you know what I mean. So, and that's how I ended up doing what I'm doing.
Yeah, you know, similar with that. I mean, in the band, Paul was always the one driving force until he got his addiction issues. But also, bands since the Mondays, all like all the stuff I was into. Not all bands, but I get obsessed by it to the point where, you know, where
he texts me at 2:00 in the morning with an idea.
It does people's head in, you know what I mean? And people that have been bands we've had, luckily, that doesn't got a job. No, he has. He runs a studio. He's like, you know, people like have families and all that, and I'd be like, no, let's do this. And I remember someone getting back to me in Nippy Baffy and Mike and saying, you just want everyone to drop everything at the drop of a hat, 6 in the morning, do it. And I went, yeah. And he went, well.
But that is very much his attitude to being in a band. It's you know, all or nothing.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's the right way to be, though, really, isn't it?
Well, it's the only way to be. But I understand. I got into the band with them. That they've got to make living. They've got to pay the mortgage. They've got to live. You know what I mean? So really, you can't be in a band with.
It's all right if you're 18.
If you're 18, it's like I remember getting asked in the city panel once. Someone was saying, "There's this band." He said, we rehearse 5 days a week. We do gigs rehearse Friday daytime. Do gigs every Friday, Saturday night, every week. Have Sunday off. We'd be doing it. We're completely dedicated. And I said to him, you rehearse 5 nights a week? He went, yeah. Well, what about the daytime? I said, we've got jobs, so you're not committed then. And he said,
really?
well, we've got.
It's a bit extreme, but
you've got to be. No, you've got to be. You know, you
don't need to eat.
I know times have changed, but you've got to be. You can't. You know,
what's wrong with shoplifting and pot noodles?
You know, I don't want to go on about being, you know, art, because music is art, but, you know, bricklaying's art as well. So, you know, I'm not saying art. You know, it is. I'm amazed how someone who can repair a car or build a wall. All my family were builders. My dad was an electrician. I couldn't, when I worked on building sites, I was useless. I was in awe of plasterers and bricklayers, just in awe of musicians. So it's all art, but if you don't give it all, if you don't give everything, you can tell. I'm sorry. I think you've got to live and breathe it completely. And that's why musicians tend to.
I think you've still got to eat.
Well, you don't eat much. You smoke more than you eat. I just think, you know, but you have, and that's why musicians aren't the best people to be around or be in relationships with, because they're self-absorbed. You know, I'm thinking constantly. Most of the, I love watching films and reading books, but apart from the boring yoga stuff, you know, and I mean, it's always related to music. Obsessed with it, and you are. You were. I leave the studio here.
Yeah.
We've done a full day. I leave the studio here at say 7 at night and go home. And he's texting me at 10 o'clock at night. He's still in the studio, doing stuff.
Really?
It's because it's not a job, is it? It's it's an endeavor of passion. It's a lifestyle. Do you know what I mean? What it's that whole thing in it. You know, do a job you love and you'll never work a day in your life. It's sort of true, but sort of not. You know what I mean? There are days when you don't want to be doing it, or days when you're not being paid enough to be doing it. But when it's summer like this, what me and Gaz are doing is us. It's not like Gaz has employed me to do a job. This is a real thing where me and him are creating something between us. That I'm passionate about. That I'm like, oh, I can't get enough of this. My missus has to go, I've made you some food, stop working and come and eat. But that's just because you're just absorbed in it. You know what I mean? You're just like, oh, this is amazing. And there's always that little bit more to do. You know, oh, if I just do this and I just do that, and then 4 hours have gone by like that. You know what I mean?
And, you know, the people we work with, like Mike B, he's got his own stuff going on and he's traveling now. He's just like, so he's not involved. But, you know, well, you know, the gigs, they give their time. You know, Chris, who's been important, co-writing with me. Chris Barton, he's in LA now, but Chris has been you know, considering he has lots of his own businesses, you know, been really busy, but they've been, you know, they've stepped up every time. So I've been really, really lucky, really, really lucky. But it is an obsession. You've got to be, and you know, I mean, it's like I always thought I'd give it up when you get to a certain age, but then you look at like Noel Gallagher and Damon Albarn, the same age as me and Latch. I know we look like they're older the dads, but they're the same age and they still make good music. And I think you can, you know, some people, Dylan and Leonard Cohen made some of their best music. Johnny Cash when they were in the 70s, you can do, as long as you don't get too comfortable.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
Paul Weller's
Well,
made, you know, True Meaning is one of the best albums I've ever heard from 3-4 years ago. You know, people can.
you've got to change, like you can't stick to the same thing for that long, can you?
No.
You can't. And I think that was that part of the problem with the Mondays doing a new album would be the audience would expect something to sound like something from the 90s. You know, but we wouldn't. We'd want something. And I think the difference between us, we all wanted different things, you know. Certainly want something more modern and more, you know. But that's it. But and that's we kind of got lost a little bit at first, me and Latch, and we're kind of getting round to where we are now, you know. But you know, but it's my kind of vocal styles were like, so you kind of like everyone keeps saying is your Johnny Cash, your what's the Australian guy
Leonard
called?
Cohen, Bob Dylan.
What's the
Nick
Cave,
Cave,
all that kind of thing. So kind of limits you. But look, we've had Chris coming who's got amazing vocals. Rowetta, Victoria who sang on Shine On.
That was the question you asked earlier.
Yeah.
That was who sung on Shine On. It's his niece.
Oh, really?
His wife's niece.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He lives just around the corner. I mean, whatever.
Undisclosed location.
Yeah. I don't know. No one cares. I just don't. I want to give. You know. I know no one really cares. You know. Not
is that work ethic? Was that always in the Mondays as well? Then, because you said like Paul was like Paul McCartney when he'd ring up the other Beatles and say "get to work" kind of thing.
I love that bit in the Beatles anthology when I think Ringo's saying him and John. What? Beatlehead. No, that's George Harrison. Imagine that's George Harrison. Imagine video, but in Imagine album recording. But and Ringo sat in the garden. He says, you know, when me and John would be enjoying the sunshine in Surrey, you know, sat in the garden, the phone would go, and we'd look at each other and go, "Same minute," you know. And you resent the person, but you need someone in the band like that. You do. And it wasn't for McCartney. He wouldn't have got, you know. But yeah, no, Paul was like that early on. Then he got his addiction came, so he didn't. And then it was kind of like a couple of people in bands with addiction. So he's pissing the wind. So, and I think when the Mondays was, we all thought it was going to end any day soon from the start.
Would you say that was imposter syndrome?
You just took the words right out of my mouth. Yeah, I'm just going to say so. Imposter syndrome, which a lot of musicians have. When we talked about anxiety before, people seem to think that musicians or people who are famous don't have anxiety, and they only do, and that's why you get a lot of them have to take drugs before they go on stage or get drunk or do stuff. People, you know, not all of them. You know, some do it for fun, but that's why, you know, and a lot of them do. You just see this lifestyle, and think, oh, they're confident. I know loads. I could tell you, I won't say on air, but I could say off air. People who we know who you'd say, oh, but he was really confident. Not at all. Not at all. It's all personas. Not at all. You know. So, and you know, you see. I mean, I don't do much of social media, a bit of Twitter, but you know, people say, all these lifestyles of, you know, the perfect life, you know, and all this perfect family, perfect have private jet, perfect all
an illusion.
It's all illusion, but everything's illusion.
Essentially we're all the same. we all have insecurities. We all have, you know,
Imposter
stuff
syndrome.
going on in our lives. Yes, stress and all that lot, and you're all trying to juggle that. But the thing with art is, it's very personal. It's not like if you build a wall. If you're a bricklayer, you build a wall. You look at that and you go, it's either a straight wall that's functional or it's not. Art's much more subjective, isn't it? So then that's when your insecurities. You start off doing something, you think this is brilliant, this is brilliant. By the time you finish it, you're like, oh, I'm not sure anymore. This is any good.
Really, yeah.
And now you want everyone's
constantly.
approval, don't you?
Everyone.
Yeah.
No,
You know what I mean? You don't. It's not like you're craving their approval, but it's an opinion poll. Then it's like, here's our art, all vote. You know what I mean?
You can't say how good our music's. Everyone thinks their music's good. They won't be doing it. When you heard a song 500 times, of course it's going to be. No matter how bad it is, it's going to be catchy. You know, it's
Oh, no matter how good it is, you're not sure anymore because you've lost all objectivity.
You can't.
You're going to be vulnerable as well, aren't you? Because you're opening yourself up, aren't you, really?
Yeah, that's exactly the point. And I suppose the same with actors, particularly stage actors, where you're getting immediate feedback from an audience. You're exposing your soul, really, aren't you? And going, judge me. You know what I mean?
I don't know how actors do it. At least I said this to Steve Evans. I don't know how they do it because with musicians, you got the music to hide behind. You know what I mean? I don't. Same with comedians. I don't know how they do it.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I can't. So yeah, I mean, I think so. With the Mondays, I thought I didn't take over the mantle from Paul when he got addiction because I thought, what's the point? Pissing the win, it could end any day. And it did, you know, we were kind of awful. And I think there's a lot of insecurity in that band. I mean, we grew up in I don't get into the class thing because I don't want to subscribe to working class. I don't subscribe to that north south divide. I've been there and I don't subscribe to all the class thing. I just don't. But it doesn't mean that it's not really, it doesn't happen. But you know, you grow up with that in.
It's a mindset.
You know what? I tell you what I've met. We both agreed on this when we've lived in London. We lived in London, when you meet people, here's a mindset. When you meet people who are middle class, they're confident because they've been brought up to be confident, whereas working class people, you know, I'm generalizing here.
Yeah.
They're brought up not to be confident. So, you know, you don't feel. I don't know whether I think it's from family or school or it's just your environment, and I don't think it's done on purpose. I think it just is. You know, don't get out of your lane, especially in England.
It's not just that. I think for me personally, as a working class lad, what we do is we sell nothing. It's just moving around. You know what I mean? Like you put a CD in your stereo and you press play and it moves some speakers, which moves her in a room, which hits your eardrums and creates a nice noise, and your brain goes, I like that or I don't like that. It sort of doesn't exist in reality, if you know what I mean. It's just her moving around. And it's like, so how would you quantify that? Like I said, if you made a table, you go, oh, it doesn't rock. I can put my dinner on it. It's made of a nice wood and it's painted red. It makes sense, if you know what I mean. It's a functional item that does a job and it does it well, and we know how much it costs to make all of that. Whereas what we're producing is an emotion that you can borrow for a few minutes. It's a load of nonsense, really, isn't it? When you think about it in those terms, it's bollocks.
And I think
It's
that's
crazy, isn't it? Really, how it can move people and everything like that. Music, it is crazy.
Well, you know, it's working class people be a sportsman or a boxer or a sportsman. When like I mean, you know, in the 80s when we started being working class and as Northerners, we had that chip on our shoulders. So I don't think it's exclusive to Northerners, but that working class thing of, oh, you're in a band. Remember, you're in a band. Oh, everyone looks at you like,
yeah. When are you going to get a mate of mine, the lad who I started in a band with at school when we were 17. He was in a band that signed a record deal. They had records in the charts. The band were called The Tempest, if you want to look them up. They had a few top 10 hits. They signed a record deal. It would have been in the early 80s for something like 100 grand, which was a lot of money. So each of the band members got 20 grand each, more than his dad earned in a year. And he went back home and his dad sort of went, have you got that out your system now? When are you going to get a proper job? He just earned more than his dad in a year on signing a contract. But it's that perception. Now, the irony of that...
proper job.
No, he's never worked since.
Oh, no.
The irony of that, though, is that we all go, as a non-maker of music, as a consumer of music, you hear a tune, don't you? And you go, oh, banging that, listen to that. And it's enriching your life. Or you hear a tune now that you go, oh, that reminds me of this girl, or being in this place or whatever. You know what I mean? It does enrich your life experience. But as someone making it, it's very difficult to quantify that and sort of go, here's what we do. We give you a smile for 5 minutes or, make you feel cry or whatever. You know what I mean?
Cry seems to be the one that appeals. See, I never got it. My parents just like go with it. They never said get a proper job. The opposite. And Paul Ryder's parents were the same. So they pushed us to go do it.
Yeah.
In fact, when I joined the Moneys, I was at school, and my mum said, "Stabbed a few months off school. You only got a 6 months to start and learn." The complete opposite. So it wasn't that. It was more like in the early 80s when he's in a band. It was like, I don't know whether it's because all that ridiculous, what's it called? What do they call that? Duran Duran or Lamont? What was that type of music?
Oh,
called?
New Wave, not New Wave, was it?
New
Romantic.
I don't know, but in the early 80s when he was in a band, it was like I'd be on the building site, which was my first jobs with my mates. In a band, it was like your sexuality was coming to question. They'd all be all like, aye. I was like, I'm in a band. I go, I play drums in here, I'm mad. I'm like, oh, okay.
Do you know, when the Mondays were at the peak and like on top of the pops and all that, as a working class lad, did you feel a bit out of place at times? With the class divide thing?
You know what? I never wanted to subscribe to all that nonsense. But yeah, when you go, especially when you go to the BBC and you're dealing with all and promotion people, and Tony Wilson was a good conduit between the two, because he was kind of middle class, but from Salford, but he knew he was good at straddling both.
And that's essentially what managers and stuff like that are. But they're that interface between the two worlds.
Yeah. Well, and so you're dealing with, but so you believe. I look back and think, you believe them because they spoke better than you, because they were better educated. You believe they knew what they were doing. But really, when you sometimes, I've been in meetings with music lawyers and people at the top of music business. I mean, head of music labels, and people that have been to really, really posh private schools, public schools, really. And they're no smart. It's just confidence.
Yeah. Bluffing.
But it's always true.
Yeah, no, it's true.
You realise that there's no
difference.
Make it
till you make it.
But yeah, there's no difference. It's just I've got confidence. Whereas we're scared of sticking our head above the pulpit. There's no difference. There really isn't. Honestly, there really isn't. And that was an eye-opener. But it took a few years. So yeah, so there's that as well. But then when you find some common ground, usually cannabis, but it's true.
When you went with Yogi G and that, obviously you'd been in the Monday since you were younger. Did you ever want to go down the safe route of staying in that music genre? I know you said you've got the acoustic, electric-y feel now, but
you've missed a vital stepping stone out as well. In between the Mondays and Yogi G, you were with the Hippie Mafia for a spell, which was an earlier incarnation, essentially, of one of Gaz's projects with other people,
with Johnny and Wayne, So that was Buffalo 66, which we toured with Ian Brown, and BDI. We toured with BDI. That was good. So no, I didn't want to ever sound like the Mondays. No, because what's the point? Well, there's always going to be elements, but no, I didn't. There's loads of influences still there.
It's like anything, any band. There's a chemistry. And it's the elements of so what made the Happy Mondays was the people in that band. Now, I remember seeing an interview with Dave Grohl after Kurt Cobain died, and he started Foo Fighters, and basically he was getting slated because everyone was going, it sounds like Foo Fighters, it sounds like Nirvana, and he went, yeah, well, I was in that band. Of course, it's going to sound a bit like them because I was one of the things that made that, if you know what I mean.
Well, I think one band should change. I don't think
But I think there's still elements of, in some of the tracks, not all of them, but there's one.
I can't see it. I don't
Monkey See, Monkey Do, which is one of the tracks we've got. It sounds, it could be a Happy Monday song.
But which ironically,
today, if you know,
it's the only one where I didn't like the lyrics and the vocals. Johnny wrote it. So that could be because of that.
I mean, I don't know what it is.
We did the music. I did the music, but he did the lyrics. So, I was the youngest in the Monday, so it was easy to see. So when I was 15, 16, starting the band, I saw, I learned of both riders how to carry yourself in a band, how to be, how to, how can I say it? I learned a lot from both of them, and from but in the Mondays, like Mark Day, the guitarist, and PD the keyboard player, don't get the credit. They have a massive influence on the sound. And when we were writing songs, massive. I mean, me and Paul were the funksters and but their sound, that Mark Day's guitar, if he was playing what me and Paul would have wanted, we would ended up like more of a funk band, a bit dirty, but he didn't, and played with PD.
That was one of my big takeaways when the Mondays first come here rehearsing, that it was a real band. It wasn't like some dance producer has made some track and these lot all sort of stand around, if you know what I mean. It was a real band. Like when I was a kid, it was a bunch of mates who went, "Oh, you play drums, you play guitar, you play bass," and everyone sort of has an equal input. And that the Mondays was that, which surprised me, because again, to me, I remember all the Oakenfold produced stuff, which was very sort of that it leaned into the whole dance thing. So even though it started off and was a real band, it was heavily produced in a dance style, if you know what I mean.
I mean, that's kind of the only probably regret thing I have about the Mondays is that they weren't really. I mean, I can't have any regrets because I made living out of it to this day, so I can't. But we've not really been taken serious. Not been taken serious. That sounds too up my own ass. I mean, like thinking that we were just a load of drug taking yobs, and so I get people who go out to eat with a load of people. There's a couple of couples you don't know, and you can tell because he's one and he's quiet and he's looking. You go, he's going to have a few more drinks. He's going to ask a question, and it's always you go, you must have had some fun in your life, right? You must have done some drugs. I said, and I always go, probably not as much as you.
Yeah, I know
and
that.
It's like, and it's like, them lads who went on the holidays to Ibiza or to
Magaluf.
Yeah, but I get cancelled, won't I? But I know them kind of things. They did it for 2 weeks. That was just us, but we did it for years. And people have this thing that we bounce into a city loud and yobbish, and we weren't. We were the opposite.
And now from yob to yogi.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, well, but I mean, it's not too. I'm a yob yogi. I'm a yogi yob. But it's funny you say
a punk hippie.
We're punk hippie. Yeah, we're contradictions, but I mean, I think, and we're going to change. We've nearly changed the name a few times. Like Yogi G, I don't know where it came from. I thought it was an email from Ian Brown, but it wasn't. I asked him, and he went, "No." Ian Brown said he used to call me Gary Krishna, as in Harry Krishna, as a joke. And I said, "What?" And I said, "Was you not Yogi G?" And he went, "No." And someone sent me an email calling me, and I can't remember who it was. If they're watching this, let me know. I can't remember who it was. And then the family tree, Johnny came up with it from Hippie Mafia. He was loving the family tree, but there's a church in Atlanta, Georgia.
So we were originally called Love and the Family Tree. But that when we told Ian Brown, it was as Love and the Family Tree. And then, like you say, you found out. Did you wrote to him, didn't you?
He wrote to us.
Oh, he wrote
some Christian in Atlanta, Georgia. Telling me, So I changed that. But we didn't even like the family tree because it's a band called the Family Tree. We don't know. I mean, you just called us before Yogi G and that. Maybe that's what we should have called ourselves.
Yogi G and that.
Yogi G and that. Oh, I just do it. I always like sliding the Family Stone, so I always thought something like that. But
what?
The mics mustn't have picked that up.
Oh, right. Someone
his shoe just squeaked.
I didn't do anything as a chair. I didn't do anything.
What? So are you going to change your name? Because I saw something on you saying on Twitter that this name's been took as well, on it.
Yeah, well, the family. No, I'm just going to go with it now. If someone sues us,
like we said earlier, now we've got to take it seriously. We've committed now.
Yeah, you can't. Yeah,
you know what I mean, once we've committed, we've just got to roll with it. It is what it is now. I think you can overthink it as well, can't you?
Yeah, just we'll just see. Just go.
What's in the name?
Yeah,
Oasis. Exactly. You'd have never thought that would have caught on. It's a soft drink.
Happy Mondays.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's it. Yeah. I've what Frankie Goes to Hollywood. What a great name that is. And the Teardrop Explodes. No, I think they're great names.
Yeah.
Teardrop Explodes.
What do you think the best band name is, though?
The Teardrop Explodes. I think is the best band name ever. Yeah. And Echo and the Bunnymen. I love it. Yeah. All Liverpool bands, ironically. We were massively influenced by Liverpool bands, not bands from Manchester. Yeah.
Best.
Stone Roses is a good name.
Yeah, that's my favourite Stone Roses. Yeah.
I'll tell you, as far as pop stars' names, my favourite one's Marilyn Manson.
Really?
Well, I just think it's a great juxtaposition. Marilyn Monroe and Manson, Charles Manson, and he slammed them together. It's just the imagery it creates. It's like being called Jesus Hitler or something. You know what I mean? It's that juxtaposition.
Should have called yourselves Jesus Hitler.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
I've got a feeling that might have been a bit controversial.
I think Leonard Cohen's the best. I don't know where he come up with it, but that's
Engelbert Humperdinck.
Oh yeah, but he's a classical writer, isn't he? Engelbert originally. The lad in our band who was to work with the Mondays lived in his old flat in Leicester. That's another story, anyway. Yeah, that's all. What was the question? I forgot.
Best band name? You
Best
think?
band
Oh,
name.
band name, yeah, I think the Teardrop Explodes or Frankie Goes to Hollywood or Echo and the Bunnymen. Oh, Liverpool band names. There's loads of great. Stone Roses are good. I know when I was saying before about Spike Allen, I didn't
You
stay.
just said loads of band names.
I didn't stay at Spike Allen because he was bad or anything. I thought it was a great event. I just left because when I met my wife and I was there with her and a mate, and I was just
Lighthouse Family.
yeah. I don't think that's a great name, but they made it a good name. No, what do you mean that?
Exactly.
All right,
Have you ever thought of a band that have a shit name but the music's good?
loads. Yeah,
Yeah,
Red Hot Chili
Beatles is a bit of
Peppers.
a shit name, isn't it?
Red Hot Chili Peppers is a silly name, isn't it? But it's a great, but works,
Pulp.
doesn't it?
Who?
Cure. Pulp.
Bit of Cure.
Yeah.
There's loads of crap band. That's what I'm saying in a weird way. It sort of don't matter. It does. When you're trying to come up with a band name, it's like this has got to be right. You know what I mean? And you're panicking about it and everything. But in reality, if you do good music, it sort of doesn't matter, does it?
Yeah, you're right. It doesn't. Yeah.
No.
You know what I mean?
I do know what you're saying.
I've got a great band name of a band that doesn't exist. Should I give this one away?
Go on.
I
Go on,
thought
then.
we could have been called this.
What?
Cortez.
Cortez.
Yeah, it's a great band name. That
Sounds like a documentary about an assassin.
there you go. They're perfect.
Yeah.
It sounds like a lot of things. Cortez's Gold, Nike Cortez. That's a great band name. I own it. Copyright.
Yes, if anyone's watching.
See me, yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Go on.
what do you want people to take away from the music then? Just positivity and
Be interesting. No, it'd be interesting. Some of my lyrics are really miserable or dark, but not because. But it'd be interesting to see. But I don't know.
I do. I want it to be, like you said, positive. Even the sad stuff, we want to be positive. There's a song, without giving too much away, one of the songs we've written about is people that are close to us that we've lost. So it's quite a sad song.
Oh, I don't want to talk about it. After
No,
Paul Riding.
yeah, not just that one.
Dad, yeah.
But the point is, it's sort of a bit comforting. We're all going to experience that kind of loss, if you know what I mean. So even though it's a sad song, it's sort of meant to make you feel a bit better. Or, we're all going to experience these emotions. The human condition is the same for all of us, more or less. We're all experiencing the same emotions, the same losses, the same loves, etc., etc. We're just chronicling journey of middle-aged men and hopefully framing it in such a way that, like you say, it's a sort of nice experience.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, just because of all we've got to offer really is experience, and still learning. That's all we've got to offer, And I think Pat Codron put it.
Good old Pat.
Pat, yeah, in Swansea, is a lad who's been watching us from the start and does our merch for us, and he said it's uplifting melancholy. I thought, I like that.
Yeah, that's great. That's a really good way of putting it. Yeah.
yeah, well, that's like the Smiths and that, ain't it? They're the same with if you take the lyrics and the music,
Yeah.
it's like uplifting music with.
Now, ironically, I like that as a production thing. Sometimes if he brings like a super sad song, I want the music to be pulling in the opposite direction or vice versa. Yeah. For that reason, I like them juxtapositions, and again, it's the tugging on the heartstrings. And
I don't find the Smiths sad. I don't find Leonard Cohen sad dark either.
See, I think Leonard Cohen is dark.
I don't think so. I don't find it. I don't think it is. I think it's just lyrically. I just have to. Stop. I can't get. It takes me an hour to get through a song. Just pausing it, going, "What's he just sang? What's that lyric? It's incredible." It's Echo and the Bunnymen that got me into Leonard Cohen.
If you took Morrissey's lyrics away from the backing band, it is dark lyrics, most of his writing in it, but Johnny Marr's guitar and Andy Rourke and Mike Joyce just give it that uplift, don't they?
Andy Rourke's incredible. I was in a band with Andy Rourke just after the money split up, and because obviously he was my brother-in-law for 15 years, and he was an incredible bass player, musician. He taught me a lot. I learned a lot from him as well. Again, like Paul Ryder, one of the funniest people you ever met. I mean, hilarious. I mean, really funny. Really funny.
Really? He seems kind of a quiet guy. Were you quiet?
He's like Paul Ryder, quiet. When you got to know him and spend time with him, just pair of them, just the funniest people ever. Characters. I mean, you don't really see them because they're not at the forefront of the band.
Yeah.
But it's a shame because they're both knowledgeable, both smart, and really funny. Some of the funniest times I've had with Paul Ryder and with Andy Rourke. But some of the best, funniest times. Hilarious.
I know it's a bit deep, but what are some of your favourite memories of Paul, either of you? Or Andy as well?
Smoking
can
a fag
tell.
and eating a pie. I still can't wrap my head around that.
Who, Paul?
Yeah.
Paul's breakfast, and he used to have 2 black coffees and 2 cigs. He used to call it a whore's breakfast. But, me and Paul used to, the thing about me and Paul was we're so different but similar. Like me and Latch have the same sense of humour. It's like we did a Monday did a tour with James a couple of Decembers ago in arenas, and we was at and he wanted everyone to be wearing masks. It was a couple of years ago because he was of the COVID thing, and I didn't want to wear one. Anyway, he came backstage the first gig, Tim, and he came in, and he was I know he's very different than Mondays. We go back a long way, but he's a top lad. He's a good lad. Very different than us, of course. They are very different, him and Jim. But we've always got with them, they accept our differences. And he came backstage and he said, "Are you all wearing masks?" And we was all in the dressing room. And I went, "Oh, don't we all, Tim? We're all wearing masks. That's how we get through life. These masks, these masks." No, I said it. Right. And no one laughed apart from Paul. Paul got on it straight away with laughing.
I got it
straight
away.
Straight away. But Paul got it. No one else laughed, and Paul started laughing. And I was like, and that's why we got. And Tim kind of just looked, and then it probably, he wasn't offended. I wasn't doing it in an insulting way, and he kind of left. And so with Paul, so loads. But I remember when he was going through coming off one of his rehabs addictions, he was at his mum, living at his mum's in Worsley, and I used to go down in the morning and sit with him a couple of hours, just after we both come out of the institution. Mine was only day, but he was in there. He was locked in there. I'd get, pardon?
Show
off, yeah. He always took it one step further. And I went round, I used to spend a couple of hours in the morning with him, and he'd say to me, "Can you go to the off license and get me a couple of cans of Stella?" This is like 9:30 in the morning. It's like, why are you too? Because he's the laziest man, never walked anywhere. He went, "No, because I'm sick of going in and buying cans of Stella. I have to go to different ones, because he was alcoholic at this time." So I said, "Yeah, I wasn't,
I'll feed your addiction."
I wasn't feeling I wasn't one to stop it. It was complicated. Addiction's very complicated. So anyway, we come back, and he'd had a pint pot and of Stella. It's like 9:30, 10 o'clock in the morning. And we sat in the room talking, and he brought this new bass guitar he'd got, brand new. He's like, "Look, this has cost me £3,000. And he put it down, and clumsily I moved, and I knocked it over the guitar, and it went and hit the pine pot, and it was falling. Paul Ryder went, "No!" And he jumped and grabbed his pine pot and went, and the bass fell on the floor, and the head's cracked in half. And I thought he was diving for the bass. He was diving for the Stella. And he got it. I remember like that. And I laughed at him, and I looked, and he went, "What? What?" And I went, "Nothing, doesn't matter." And that's addiction. So that's one thing. But there's loads. There's just hundreds of them.
You just said something really interesting about Tim out of James. You're different, but you all got along.
Mm.
That's what we need more of in the world. That's what we're sort of about.
Yeah.
You can have a difference of opinion or a different outlook on stuff. The whole world at the moment is designed to polarize opinion and have us arguing with one another. It's the fault of ISIS or COVID or whatever. What's wrong with just like we don't have to all like the same things and we can still be mates? You know what I mean? More of that, I say.
We toured James in the 80s, and we were so different. Can you imagine? And we were we were on a mission in the 80s. We were a nightmare to be around, and which goes against everything I just said before, as well. But and they were completely opposite. They were very student. But they accept. They took a couple of gigs, and then once they accepted we weren't a threat, we weren't thugs. We got on. It was very different, completely different. In fact, Paul's kids in Topanga in California, which is very kind of new age. Kids went to the same school as Tim's.
Really?
Yeah, and I mean, I just send my kids to them schools. I like all that. We like similar things. Just that sometimes it's put across differently.
Yeah, but like that's what you say. That's what you need to focus on more. What have we got in common, rather than what makes us different? You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's like. Oh no, sorry. What were you saying? Sorry.
No, I'm just saying that's what's important. We're all going through the same bullshit and having the same experiences. Like what can we share with one another that helps rather than bickering and fucking fighting? You know what I mean?
I know you're a regular on Twitter, Gaz. When you scroll through, it's just negative in it of people arguing, and it's just
me. I'm negative.
That's it. Weird with him. He plays up to that a little bit. He sort of plays the role of the moaning mank. Even though he's not. He's actually quite funny.
It's funny because Coatsy, our mutual mate, who's a guy from Burnage. who lives in Toronto, who's my best man in Toronto, who's my mate, and he said, 'cause I said to him one night, it got really deep with him, and he doesn't like going down. I went, "Am I miserable moaning all the time?" And he grew up in Burnage, and his mates, the Gallaghers, are his close mates. You know, Liam's one of his best mates. He's more that age, but he's younger than me. And he said, no. He said, you like Noel? He said, miserable moaning, but funny miserable moaning.
Yeah, yeah.
He said, he must be your age group.
Yeah.
He said, because all Noel, you know, that kind of thing. And
It's sort of done a bit tongue in cheek, but if you don't get it, it just comes across as moaning. And he just plays up to that. So
I think
it
that's
sounds like
a northern thing as well, that, isn't it?
I think it is, yeah. Like literally every day when he comes to the studio, I open the door to let him in, and he's like, all right.
Stop it, like,
Because
on
he knows I'm
roundabouts.
going to hit the door with a smile.
Oh,
so
God.
he'll try and cancel me out.
Always got a smile. You know what I mean? We always got, you know, them people that are always happy. You'll know this. Does your head in. And then my wife's the same. She's always happy. Always happy. I'm doing my best.
Yeah.
She's always like, you open the door. Hey, how you doing? I'm like, traffic lights on roundabouts. Defeats the object. Doesn't head in, you know what I mean? Well, you know what's going on the road? You know, just been done for road tax.
Can't pay for me coffee with cash.
Can't you? Don't care. Have you got the app? No, I've not got the app. I don't even know what an app is. Oh, you know, we'll have to get an app.
See? But he'll say, don't even know what an app is. That's exactly the point.
I've only just got online banking. They sent me accountant sent me a bill the other day, and they sent him a bill, and he said, "Oh, at last, after 15 years, you've got online banking." He said, "I was paying by checks up to last year." And he said, there's just John Cooper Clark to go. You know who John Cooper Clark is?
Yeah.
He said only John to go now. He still pays by check. But, and so
Gotta go down fighting.
I love a good man, no man shouting at me. But yeah, he's always happy. Doesn't know. But it's good because he stops me from being miserable. I mean, by the end of the day,
And the more miserable he is, the happier I become.
Somebody-
I'm determined he's not going to win.
but no, it's not. But actually, that's wrong. Because by the end of the day in the studio, he's not as happy, and I'm not as sad, and it's kind of Well, the Chuckle Brothers. If nothing else, come to the gig just for that. With Chuckle Brothers, you know, bit of comedy. Forget about the music; it's shit. Just think, come for a laugh.
Yeah. Not just bickering.
Just bickering like a
Old married couple.
Yeah, waiting for Godot. Yeah, we are. Yeah.
So you mentioned Shine On's hopefully out in January.
Yes.
You've got
hopefully, definitely
out in January.
We're getting organised now. We're getting organised.
You've got the Shine On Festival. Did you say that on March?
Yeah.
End of March.
We've got a bunch of gigs booked in from
end of Feb.
End of Feb. We're starting gigging. You know, obviously we'll carry on through March and so on and so forth. But yeah, we're starting gigging from Feb. Like I say, we're having a proper a go at it this time.
Oh, the gigs are already
a couple of shows.
Booked. Then
We've started booking shows, yeah.
Yeah,
and as soon as we get a website, you'll be able to see where we'll be.
I was looking for Leeds today as well. The Leeds, so we'll do Leeds. Jason on Twitter sent me a couple of venues that go on that. So, do you go to gigs?
Yeah, as many as I can.
As many as I can, so you don't, then, do you?
But each day.
That's like saying
as many as I can.
That's like when people say to me, "Now, do you go to Old Trafford or United?" Yeah, as many as I can.
Yeah, they do it. Yeah,
I don't go anymore. I don't go anymore now. No.
Can't be
Why don't you go? Because the bar's not there, my toilet's not there, my bed's not up there.
Yeah.
What was last gigs you two went to?
We were booked to go in to see the Sex Pistols, but we both forgot.
Oh yeah.
Really?
Oh yeah. I was ill. Felt ill. Ironically, the last gig I went to was Happy Mondays and Stereo MCs.
Oh yeah, last year.
Newcastle.
Yeah.
I can't remember where I went to.
Because I went up. A good mate of ours is Paul Tucker out of Lighthouse Family, who lives in Newcastle. So I'd gone up there for the weekends to see him, and then the Mondays were going to be in town, so it was like, well, we've all got to get together, haven't we? So yeah, me and Paul.
It's a top lot, isn't it?
Yeah, sound.
Big. Top.
Yeah, about 6'2", 6'3".
More than that.
You reckon?
Yeah.
Well, anyway, me and Paul went to the Mondays and Stereo MCs gig.
About 6'8".
That was the last gig I went.
Was it? I don't know.
6'8".
I know. I was sat down.
I believe that.
You know what? I don't think I've been to a gig for. What's last gig? I don't go to gigs really.
No, I don't. It's a busman's holiday. I'd rather go to the gig, hang out with the band backstage, and then when they're going on stage, going right, we're going for something to eat. I'll see you when you get off stage.
We used to go for a
Really,
curry, don't we?
Yeah, yeah.
We go for a curry after the gig. That's our routine. Have a gig and go for a curry. I can't remember the last gig I went to. Can't
Oh,
remember. Ian
no, you
Brown,
didn't go
maybe.
that Floyd thing, did you?
Ian Brown, maybe. Can't remember.
We were all at that.
I was all like that.
Yeah. You didn't go that Pink Floyd thing at Grodrell Bank, did you?
That's not them, though, is it?
I don't know.
No, it's not them. They wouldn't play in General Bank.
Well, I don't know.
They don't even talk to each other.
All right, okay.
It wasn't Pink Floyd, really. Just some bloke playing.
Pink Floyd.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't really
I
know.
think
much about
David
Pink Floyd.
Gilmour's playing in London though. That next month. That.
I don't know. I'm not a Pink Floyd fan. I like a bit of Roger Waters, but I'm not really a
We were
Pink
going
Floyd
for the
fan.
light show. It was at Jodrell Bank outside, and we were all going to go down.
And just go for a light show. I mean, well, you don't drink, have a drink. And I was going to say have a smoke then, but I don't smoke cannabis in this country because it's illegal. I only do it when I'm in countries where it's legal.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You're
I
on.
believe
No,
you.
no, it's true. It's true. It's true. I don't do it.
What is it like booking gigs on that these days? Is it easy to book gigs?
I don't know. I don't. The lad does it for me. James. He does a few of them. So I've got a couple of friends who are different venues, different towns and mates who I'll ask, and I'll just ask on Twitter the other day if anybody knows anything. Right? So it's kind of because they're only like small
I think
venues.
it also helps being a happy Monday.
Oh, well,
Maybe.
I was going to ask you that actually. I had Peter Holmstrom, the Dandy Warhols.
Yeah.
I had him on the podcast, and he said since he started his new project away from that, it's harder for him. It's like he's restarted. Is that not how it feels for you?
It sort of is. Yeah, but you've already made a network. That's the hard thing with anything to do with music. You're in a band, you've got a CD or whatever it is these days. Where do you go from here? Whereas years ago, you made a demo, you sent it to some record company, or you rung up venues and went, "We're a band, here's a cassette, can we get a gig?" It was relatively easy. Since 2020, a lot of the venues have shut down.
Yeah.
So particularly those sort of middle-sized venues. So you've got really small ones and really big ones, but
That's
a lot
good.
of the middle-sized
really
ones,
small ones.
yeah. But a lot of the middle-sized sort of venues have shut down.
I don't
you know
know.
what I mean?
I don't know whether it might have done at one point, but I don't think it makes. I don't think people are really interested now. I mean, Mondays are a long time ago.
No, but you've still got a network of people who you can ring up and go.
Oh yeah, but
and that helps already knowing someone. That's half the battle, isn't it?
Yeah,
You know, when we were sending out demos years ago to record labels, trying to find out the name of the person you needed to get that to was the battle.
Oh yeah, I mean it's good having the network for them to ignore you.
Yeah.
Send them an email, not heard anything back. Yeah. Well, they like the gigs we got with Ian Brown. Obviously because we know him. So that helped, and so I got so it helps there. When it was in Hippie Mafia and we was in Toronto, and BDI came over and I said, "Oh, can we play with you?" And he went, "Yeah." We did the one gig in Toronto, and then he went, "They liked it that much, so come and do the UK tour with us," which we did. So yeah, it helps with that. But anything else, I don't think people really care.
What you just pointed out there is interesting. The thing's still got to be good enough.
Yeah.
What you're fortunate is that you can get it to the ears of someone who can go, "Oh, we can help you here by giving you these gigs or whatever." And as a young band, that's the hard bit. If I send a demo to you and go, "Oh, would you mind having a listen to this?" and you're getting 50 demos a day, it's like, oh, ain't got the time. But if it's come from Gaz and you go, "I know Gaz is all right, I'll give that a listen as a little favour to Gaz." Now they've heard it. They might not like it still, but at least they've heard it. That's the hard bit.
I wouldn't like to be a young band starting out.
No,
it's
hard. I don't know. The world's changing and we're all farties now. This digital world and being able to, you can be your own record label and stuff like that. I am not up to speed enough on all of this social media and all that to understand how it works.
just time consuming, takes you away.
That's-
from
Yeah,
doing
but-
actual music.
yeah.
Youth understand it more. To them,
youth.
this is a great youth. It's a great vehicle for them.
It is. It is in your hands these days, but
To some degree.
I think it's completely. Yeah, if you do all that.
Yeah.
But we're just we're just not.
But the thing is
I just want to
nowadays,
make music.
the thing is nowadays as well though, there's that many bands on social media. It's more competitive to get seen on there now.
Yeah. But there's a frightening statistic. How many? Is it something like 100,000 records a week are uploaded to Spotify or something?
10,000 a day or something.
Yeah, like you literally, if you sat and listened from morning till night, you haven't got enough time to listen to them all.
No,
That's
exactly.
how much new music is saturated out there because everyone, like you said, because of the internet and computers and stuff, everyone can make a tune in a day at home and have it on Spotify in the afternoon. You know what I
But
mean?
you know what? Without being fingers,
There's no quality control.
So it's great, like punk. You can anyone can make music,
Yes.
which is good.
Yeah.
There's a lot of
There's a lot of
That's what I'm saying.
shit.
There's no quality control to sort of filter better quality in most people's opinion than not.
What's it like for you nowadays when people can record at home? What's that like for your recording studio?
It's impacted it. We probably first noticed the impact of that about 10 years ago, something like that. So all of the bands who've never recorded in a recording studio before, Morecambe and Wise, the bands who've never recorded in a recording studio before stopped coming to us because they had a mate with a laptop and an SM58 and a garage.
That's a microphone, by the way.
Yeah. So their first demo was done by him rather than them coming to us. And then a lot of the DJs, we used to get a lot of DJs years ago coming in doing dance tunes. They all suddenly got laptops and knew how to use Ableton or whatever software they were using. So we lost them. But what happened at a similar time is a lot of the big recording studios went bump because of the rising cost of running and maintaining a studio and the cost of renting a building in a city centre. The record companies weren't paying out as much money, so there was less budgets. So a lot of the big studios went bump. So again, we sort of capitalised in the bands with the first small record deal who could no longer go to these big studios were coming to us. So it was like we moved up one rung in the ladder or something like that. Ironically,
the residential studios in mansion houses in the country, like Richard Branson's and Peter Gabriel's, where we did stuff in the money. It's really brilliant. They were the best time. I remember we went to, I think it was the Ravoni people went, and it was Richard Branson's Virgin. They were doing something. They were launching something, and we got there, and he said, "Oh, we're having a big fete tomorrow with all these like proper posh, all this fete and all that." And he said, "If you want to have a break from the music, if you want to come, it's okay. There's a load of them quad bikes. You can go on them if you want."
Oh. That was legal.
You won't know what the Banana Splits is, will you? TV show from the 80s. Google it. Banana Splits. It's like that at the beginning. Imagine the chaos.
Did Bez nearly kill himself?
No, I don't think Bez was there actually.
All right, I was going to say out with an engine.
Yeah, I've heard did he break his arm on some Bez? It turned over. He broke his arm
a few times.
A Jeep in Barbados, yeah.
Done a few times. And then he broke it again on one of them
jet skis.
Yeah, the following week.
He'd come out of hospital. Came out of hospital and he was insisting on going on it with his arm.
Yeah, he was still in.
And we said to the bloke, "Go slow," and he went as fast as you can, mate. Broke it again.
What did he break when he come off his bike? Who was he racing? Was it Foggy?
Carl Fogarty, yeah.
Have you heard of Carl Fogarty?
Yeah.
Superbike. Yeah. He lives up near Bez. They're friends. They go crossing together abroad and stuff like that. Oh, Bez only wants to race him.
Jesus Christ.
In Scotland about 20 years ago on a Ducati, he nearly killed himself. He's in hospital for... That's all. There's a great... When he was in hospital, I got there, went to visit Bez one day. And I went up and he was all like, I said, "What's up with you?" He went, "Got a phone call." And he answered it and he went, this guy with a French accent going, "Bez, it's Eric Cantona." Eric... Oh, that's not even a good French accent, is it? Eric Cantona. And then Bez was going, fuck off. And I can't remember. He thought it was me. Fuck off, horse. Fuck off, Gaz. And he's like, "No, it isn't me, Eric." He's going, "Fuck off." And it was. He was Eric. But yes, but we remember going to the studio we did Peter Gabriel's studio, Real World, which I loved. We did quite a lot of stuff there. And he got us a big barrel of Guinness and Stella and something else in to last a week. He went in 2 days. Because everyone...
I can't understand why you lot got such a bad reputation.
Any band. It's free, any band. But I remember, so it was in this big mansion. It's beautiful. And in the bathroom was this like big wooden old wicker basket with like all your toiletries in. It was beautiful, this thing. So at the end of it, we're going, I went, I'm going to have that. And I can't believe, I know I feel really bad, but I did. And I took it. You didn't look. Anyway, about a month later...
Here's the problem here. Literally, we were having this conversation the other day about the reputation of the Happy Mondays.
Oh, God, everyone stole things. It's like stealing... No, I'll rephrase that. It's like taking shampoo from a hotel room. So it's just...
but on a much grander scale.
I didn't rob his house. It was a toiletry basket in his bathroom. You want a little toiletry basket made out of wicker? It was about £3.
If you went round the
But
dance,
anyway-
would you have took it?
But anyway, I did. I know. I was young and heavily sedated. Anyway, I took it and I felt really bad. But it looked good. You know, it was my first house. I thought, oh, that's terrible. But I thought he's rich and wrong. You know, it did dickhead. But 3 weeks later, I'm in Bez's house in Gloucester. Go for a piss, and he's got his in the back. Oh, you stole one as well. He went, oh, I thought you could take it, which he thought, all right. And I went to Peter Paul Riders, and he had one in his back as well. So we'd all taken him.
We had the reputation you
Just
had.
a toiletry bag. It was our, a toiletry, holder. Anyway. So yeah, their studios.
They probably expected you to take it.
When they expected much worse, I think we thought they got off lightly. But yeah, I think that's the thing. I think it's great how we can make music at home and send it, put it into the world. It's great. But obviously, it's like with anything on, like, you have to get a lot of negative stuff as well. But yeah, I think it's a good thing you can do that. But when it comes to like drums, you need a studio and I don't know.
Brass as well.
Brass section.
You can get away with a guitar and a bass anywhere. You can even do vocals anywhere.
Well, some can. Rowetta does vocals at home and she sends them and they're incredible. Well, it's Rowetta.
She's a great singer. She is a great singer, though.
But I can't. If I did vocals at home and sent them here, they just sound like someone doing a dirty phone call. Do you remember that? That's an 80s thing. It's an 80s thing as well, apparently. That's all I have read.
You've got a lot of like great stories, and I know you're writing a book. How's that coming along?
You know what? I do it in phases. I need to get on it, actually. It's nearly finished. I'm about 2 chapters off. It's going to the top of the pops.
Age 19.
What?
You got to about age 19.
No, I've got to the. I'll be doing top of the pops. I thought I'll leave it there. Leaves it open to do, And we met the Roses at the top of the pops because that's when we really got to really know the Roses.
That one.
Tina Turner was there. That one, yeah. But I'm about 2 chapters off. But I need to sit down and do it. I will do.
What are you going to do? Like what Will Sargent did when he's in like order, Annie. He said,
yeah, I've only read the first one of Will Sargent. It's brilliant, but I've done this I've written it as in the first person, so I've written it like it's like a novel rather than me saying this is where I grew up. It's like me talking. It's like me at the time in the first person talking.
All right.
Like so it's like it's almost like a play, but it's not. Because I couldn't write a play, but it's that kind of written like that. I'll send you some bits of it. I'll send you it. All my friends are junkies, so should get it finished soon. I'm just gonna finish it when we're top of the pops because that was just a great day,
Yeah, with the same sweater as Ian Brown and that.
Yeah, that was really weird. When we walked into the studios at top of the pops, they were doing their rehearsal, and he had it on, and I walked in first with that, and then he straight away just stopped singing or miming without your mime. Then in the middle of the song, just pointed at me and was just laughing his head off. And we didn't know it was pure coincidence. Yeah.
Yeah, you told me well when you were last on the podcast about you were going to mix up the people in the group, and that guy caught you.
That's the one.
Well, you do about 4 or 5 rehearsals, and they do the live one at night time. And me and said we were not. They were, it's weird. You talk about the class thing before. They were talking to us and the Roses like shit. The crew,
really,
and everyone else really nice. It's like they really didn't want us there. And because of that, we were in between takes. We just spent the time in the bar. No, we were just drinking in the bar. And I think we just said, me and Manny said, we'll just swap. You go drums. And I'll go down. And I think it might have been Ian's idea, actually. I remember John Squire wasn't too keen on it because he didn't think it devalued the band, and Paul wasn't too keen on it. He thought it might devalue it. We were saying, let's have one back on them. They don't know. No one knows who we are. And we literally got up and they got on it straight away. So someone had and said, and he had went into a rant, you do this and you'll never be on the BBC ever again and all that. So didn't do it, yeah. But I think it might have been Ian Brown's idea. I can't remember. But yeah, we nearly did it. Me and Manny were going to swap.
What was your favourite time on Top of the Pops? There were one with Kirsten McCall as well. Like, been on it a lot. But
that was the first one. We didn't know. I didn't even know she'd sang on it because her husband had done a mix of it, a radio mix that Top of the Pops used. She was ace. She was brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Great. And because her dad was from Salford.
Yeah, he wrote, what did he write? Did he write Dirty Old Town?
He wrote Dirty Old Town and what's the other big tune?
He wrote that Christmas song, didn't he?
He wrote that, what's that big...
Fairy Tale of New York, no?
No, he didn't write that, no. He wrote...
Oh, that's where we're going.
No, yeah, because he did Dirty Old Town. So he did Dirty Old Town, but he also did Whenever I Saw Your Face, Roberta Flack or something like that.
It was something, I can't
like
remember.
Nah.
Whenever I Saw Your Face.
It's a big song, though.
Big soul song, big, really big. And he went to the same school as my dad.
Not as big as your mate from Grimsby.
Oh, yeah. Anyway, that's something, yeah. He wrote all the soul
Michael
stuff.
Jackson stuff.
Yeah. So she was great, but we spent out, but we were just in the bar with Stone Rosy drinking most of the day. I was just really good because we thought the bar and the restaurant, the cafe, here in the BBC before because
Celebs and that.
Roman soldiers
Yeah,
and,
yeah,
and
yeah,
German
yeah.
German soldiers
Yeah.
and people in Victorian clothes. It was just a load of staffing, It was dull.
Yeah, yeah.
But
That's the
most of
thing
it.
that when you watch it on telly, it looks all like mental and crazy, don't it? But when
Oh, it was small. It was a tiny room. But it's ace because I grew up in the 70s watching Top of the Pops. So we thought we'd made it. I was really nervous. You couldn't hear the playback of the music either. So really, that's probably the most nervous I've ever been.
really, yeah.
Yeah, and you were miming. I was terribly drunk, but
So, with the music and everything, we mentioned you've got gigs lined up. What about the singles? You've got the one in January? You're just gonna let that run its course a bit and then do the second single?
we'll probably release a single every 7 or 8 weeks. That's the plan is.
What I'm trying to do at the moment, because some of the stuff already exists out there on YouTube and previous stuff that's been snuck out, I'm starting to upload them onto the digital platform, so the back catalogue is already there, so that when we start releasing tracks officially as Yogi G and the Family Tree, you can hear some of the back catalogue stuff. It's rather than going, there's one song, click on it, that's all you get, if you know what I mean. And then we have this conversation about albums. In my head, there's no such thing as an album anymore. There's a collection of songs, if you know what I mean. Well, I mean, unless it's a black disc this big that's plastic, an album doesn't exist, does it?
No,
You know what
no,
I
I
mean?
don't say
It's
it.
a
Yeah.
sort of collection of songs, if you know what I mean. Well, and that being the case, how many's in a collection of songs? Do you do 5 songs? Do you do 10? Do you do 60? You know what I mean? So I think the idea is we want to just keep releasing stuff, but quite regular intervals, so that there's new content, new material up there, if you know what I mean. But rather than going, oh, let's wait and release an album, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I
We'll
think
just like have another kind of thing.
that is a good idea. That just keeping fresh material coming out.
Yeah, well, again, like I say, we've sort of got this back catalogue of stuff that's snuck out there through YouTube, etc. So I'm desperately trying to get that all up, so that now exists on. Now that we have a Spotify account, that now exists there, and then, like you say, January we're releasing Shine On, so that will be our first official release, if you will. But then the plan is to put something new up every sort of 6 or 8 weeks, because not that we're going to be working every 6 or 8 weeks. We've already got the songs done, or to a large degree done, if you know what I mean, ready for touring, because that's what we're touring, all them songs.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
we're just going to keep throwing them out there, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, well, got me throat. Yeah, so I've heard the song. Like I said, it is a brilliant song. So any way I can help push it or anything.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, nice one.
have you got any social media left?
I'm on what was it? Not Instagram, Twitter, X.
Oh, you on that? No,
Yeah, and Facebook, but yeah,
I don't have Facebook.
I,
But
mean, I know I'm so old, mate. I'm such an old
I should get it really for this, but it's just to promote this podcast and
Yeah.
stuff. Really.
Everyone's phoning, Scully phoning. My son's phoning from Canada. Everyone's phoning at this moment in time.
That was my daughter who rung before. Nothing to do with watching this. Just mothering.
Yeah, so I have had you both a long time, so I appreciate the time you've given me. Yeah.
Oh,
No worries, mate.
So what's your Twitter and Instagram, Gaz?
I don't know. What is it? It's just Yogi G music or what is it? I don't know. What is my?
I don't know. That's your YouTube.
What is my Twitter thing? What's my?
I don't know.
Oh, at Yogi G music. Yeah, Yogi G music.
At Yogi G Music.
So
That's
everything will be on there when everything's out and
Yeah.
stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think if you type Yogi G and the Family Tree into Google, it
It'll come
all
up,
sort
yeah,
of comes
it'll
up
come
now,
up.
because there's only one of us.
Yeah. Well, nice one. Thank you both for joining me. It's been great.
no
to
What
meet
is?
you.
Have you got everything you need?
Yeah, it's been great. Thank you.
Oh, that's
No
no
worries,
problem.
mate.
Nice one.
Nice one. See you in a bit.
See you
Nice
later.
one.
See you
Cheers,
later.
dude. See you
See
later.
you. Thank you.
Take it
Bye.
easy. Ta-ta.